Episode 90, Lyrical Ones. I'm Cineo, joined, per usual. Affluent, how you doing?
I'm affluent. It is great to be here. It is a great day. I ran out of bad days, back in 2005. I haven't had a bad day since. And I've tried. I made mistakes, messed up, been dishonest with myself, tried to people please and appease, tried to be a, a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist. And I still can't have bad days. It's really a nice life to live. Try as I might, I ain't had a bad day in years. Like you say, I ain't took a L since Pac died.
I hear that. I hear
But
that.
I see, but I see this experiment. It's so crazy because like you really can't call American the democracy an America democracy, Like as much as you may want to, it's not really real, which is which is why they don't really back democracy where it's trying to come up in the world. That's one thing I tripped off of. Like all these places trying to be sovereign and like really do the democracy thing is not realizing that the United States is more of a republic and it's not really a democracy. But moving on past that, it is a great day. It is Women's History Month, and I don't know why that can't be every month. Like everybody was just like literally born the same way. So basically, Women's History Month is like celebrate your mama month, celebrate all the mamas, and we pretty much could do that anytime and not just wait till Mother's Day. Because you say Women's History Month. Oh, well, even if you don't celebrate mothers, you can celebrate the mothers of the women who were not mothers, right? It's like, okay, if so and so didn't have no kids, that's fine. She's not a mother, but that ain't a bad thing. She's like she had a mama, you know, and people be feeling bad for not being moms and things like that. And like I can't do nothing about that. That's real tough. And genetics and science and violence and really I'm just happy to celebrate anybody who's made an impact on the planet, made an impact on our quality of life and our ability to be loving toward one another. And so it's a lot of women who fall in that list. And I always want this space to be, something that we are in celebration of, you know, all the stories being told, all the lives that are being lived as stories that we might share those stories with each other and lift up the stories. And I think whenever we can talk in discourse about all the stuff going on, I think I'm communicating to you and to the lyrical ones in celebration that we get to have this space. And I just realized I got a $5 off coupon for a salad and I ain't use it. Oh, I got a QR code. It is going down later this week. I'm gonna pay somebody to make me a salad after I use all my salad stuff to make me a smoothie. So, Cineo, how you feeling?
I am. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm amused. I'm learning so much. Um, you know, looking at the world, the state of the world, it's very sad for what people are going through. It's very sad to
Yeah.
see, sad to know. And it's this crazy dynamic of like, going back to what you're saying about, the democracy, right? These elected officials, we people chose these people to represent us. And I feel like for the past couple years more than ever, they don't represent me. I'm always seeking out policy that help support communities that I live in or that I am impacted by or that I have an awareness of what the needs are. But overall, like, even though I'm doing good, I can still see the madness, the mess. I can still see the toxicity. I can still see the harm, and working even more now towards the day when I'm able to, refine the practice to a science and give it to others so that they can use it, right? It's like I could give you $1 or I could give you ways and methods to go earn it and get it, right? You think about, circumstances that are beyond your control, but then in that, can you see what is in your control and then how do you make the most of that, right? It's all these things going through my mind, going through my head as I reflect on how I've been treated, whether good or whether bad, whether healthy, whether unhealthy. It's deep reflection, deep, yeah, just mindfulness, and the pursuit of what excites me, what entices me, what inspires me, what makes me happy. Refining that and making that central to my life. It is very easy. Like, I've learned more than anyone else. Your life is your life. Your story is your story. Some things will inspire you. Some things will encapsulate your feelings or emotions, but yours is yours alone. That isn't to isolate you and make anybody feel like they're in a vacuum, but it is to say that you have to really pay attention to what you have access to support you through the challenge and through the struggle, because you'll find that you have it. Even if you don't have it now, you will have it, or you'll have some variation of it at some point. But it becomes so clear, like, man, I can see this so much more clearly than I ever have about what is going on and how do I overcome. Like, I'm so ready to do so much. I had a conversation with a friend, and I was saying, right, when you think too much, it's less to do. But when you really stop thinking, then you do a lot, right? So I was like, less to think, more to do. And that's my approach right now. Less to think, more to do. Processing, reflection, really doing a self assessment and inventory. But more importantly, getting through that so I could get to what brings me joy and like, you know, increases my vitality, right? My overall sense of being here and being present. So yeah, that's how I'm doing. That's how I'm doing on episode 90 of the Lyrical One. I mean, there's so many interesting
Nine
components,
oh
so many different things. Like, it's a trip right now. Like people have the conspiracy theories of what's going on in the world, right? And how it's tied into Bitcoin, right? How it's tied into cryptocurrency. And there's something to be said about, I was explaining to somebody, right, about how we generate the value system, right? Things don't have value. We just determine and decide as collective groups what has value, right? In my mind, the essence is the most valuable thing to me is time, right? Like, that's number one. And then number two is space. Now, depending on what language you speak, they might be considered one and the same, right? They might be two that are just whole. And for me, because I speak this language, right, time is this just ever pressing movement into the future, right? That's what it is for me. The time I reflect on, those are memories. So I don't consider that as much as time that has like time now that I have versus time that has passed where I don't have access other than the education. But more importantly, even though that's important, more importantly, it's the present moment, right? It's what I'm going to do, what's going on, what's next. Then from there is space, right? And space can include land. Space can include just having space from people or having the space to explore and discover or to reflect. But space is important. Space is so important, right? And then from there, it's about what are the things that bring me joy and bring me happiness and what gives me health. Um, but thinking I was speaking to a young person about like what's crypto and how does this work and understanding that there's an opportunity to learn how this system works where you can then be the one who creates the next currency, right? You create the next tradable thing, right? Because again, right, there's people who are so fundamentally just rooted in what they know. But I just looked at the news recently and they're closing a bunch of like bank branches all over the Bay Area. They're changing the way that they're banking and they're changing the accessibility for people, right? And like I've worked with students who it's like, yo, do you have a cash app? Guess what? You could set it up to be a bank account. You didn't have to go nowhere. You were just on your phone, right? And then it's like, oh, I got a Venmo. What's crypto? What's this? And it's like, oh, let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about how we have the ability to change how we use technology where once you participate, there's an authenticity, right? Authentication process of like verifying how this file or this honestly this code. That's all it is this code that we all use. How does this code being tracked and traced, right? How this code is now being able to be observed as a single entity versus then a ever infinitely copying thing, right? It's like, oh, I created a letter, I sent it to you in Google Docs. Now you have the letter. And then after a while, it's easy to just copy the words and paste somewhere else and it just keeps on going. But now we have the means to say, no, this file has a value. There's a determined value behind it that we all agree on. And we're gonna trade with it, right? I'm gonna trade with you. I want some in-depth, right? Physical mastery. I want to be able to really hone in on how do I develop my skills in the physical form. So Alpha One, I'm gonna trade you. I'm gonna give you this thing that I feel like has value. If you see it has value, you accept it. But who's missing out? There's so many people missing out. Those same world leaders who are the ones that are supposed to represent us that I don't think is any encapsulation of my identity or what I believe or my philosophies, my personal leanings. Like they don't respect that. They don't hear that. But you know what they do hear? You got money that we don't have access to. Your money doesn't help reinforce our system. Your money exists in a vacuum. So then it's like, yeah, because I'm not trying to play in your game no more. It's a business. So I'm gonna create a new business. Money's a business. I'm gonna create a new business.
I like that. It's interesting that you talked about memories as education, right? So as much as I've learned, right, I can still learn more. And what I learn, right, I can pass on to others. And for them, it may serve as a telling of the future, right? These are moments that you may experience. And here's how they happened. And now we can talk about how they could happen differently. And from your choices that you make, you can be in the moment and experience life in various ways. And I think as we take the value of things, right, say, oh, well, can I really pay for your memories? Kinda. We always have. That's what stories have always been, right? But the stories used to be for free, right? Maybe you get, some gratuity here or there as a griot or a poet, or just a storyteller on the street, and you say, "Oh well, this this token will help you purchase a sandwich or some coffee or some housing, right? Or some room and board or a drink, beverage of some kind, recreational beverage." And, you know, before that, maybe there wouldn't be any token exchange. They say, just come with me and I'll treat you, right? When you're not telling stories, when you're not singing, when you're not performing, right? We'll treat you to food, we'll treat you to entertainment, all because of your commitment to your craft. Now we say, oh, now we got these artists who have been creating and have been committed to their craft, right? Expressing some of their lessons, some of their education, right? Their perspective of life, right? Through a particular medium in the form of, right, creativity, right? Say, this is my lived experience, and this particular piece of art represents a portion or a time period, right? Or a space, right? Or a time or a moment in my lived experience. Or what I think about a lived experience that was shared with me, right? Maybe a story. You say, well, I interpret this story this way, right? As another story, right? As an anecdote, as a poem or a picture or a song. And now we have the opportunity for the art themselves to be tokens of exchange, right? It says, this piece that I'm performing or that I've created, you can now codify it and take it with you and then trade it. So now I can trade the art and purchase a meal. Well, now the story is providing for me in the same way that the story provides for the artist, right? Only if the exchange is worth a meal, right? And so it's like you said, right? We determine the value. So if someone says to me, "Oh, well, this art is not worth a meal," well, to me as an artist, I missed many meals to while I was creating it, right? And even though that's my responsibility, I created this with the hope that it would help me eat, but more so than anything, I needed to express myself. And I think we are seeing the crossroads of the devaluation of expression and that changing. And as it changes, right, mental health, right, starts to matter, right? Communication starts to matter. community starts to matter, transparency starts to matter, where we get to a point where we say, oh, well, we got a whole generation of people not good at expressing themselves, right? Because they don't live in community. They don't see each other on a regular basis. They don't look each other in the eyes. They engage and disengage based on what media tells them to. They don't take each other seriously. They may not even take themselves seriously. And so, as they feel, they may dismiss their own feelings, their own instincts, and miss the opportunity to explore that creativity, that expression of their lived experiences, that education, not able to use that education to eat. And a lot of creatives know what it's like to feel a block in their creativity. I think it also often has to do with how one sees themselves and how well they trust themselves to feel. And sometimes being able to have that introspection that you talked about, and what makes you tick, being more insightful about that. You call it refining. For a lot of people, that mindfulness just means, right, before they can even refine it, they just need to know what they got, what they're working with. But being able to do that, like whatever it is, instead of saying, well, only way I can write this poem is if I feel this. Only way that I can create in the studio is if I'm in this state or this space. Only way that I can paint, only way that I can draw or sketch is if all these things align. And rarely do they align on a regular basis. And so sometimes there's not, it's like turning the faucet on and off, because we say, well, I'll wait to create when I get back to the faucet and I turn the faucet on. Right. And if we get to a point where we can express ourselves and process those feelings whenever, right, we can always have an exchange, right, to a point where, we can always eat. I just found out they got an academy that will teach you how to paint like a certain late afro wearing painter. And you can then teach others to paint in the same style. And I imagine there's some language, some linguistic or some slang, some vernacular vocabulary that's being taught along with, certain painting techniques. But really, right, we're taking the story of somebody's life, monetizing it, and saying, here, help other people tell stories. Right? Basically become an art teacher and give people different mediums, a new medium to express themselves. And I think to some degree that is what's missing in some spaces in the digital realm, is create the opportunity to create teachers who then create artists, help create artists. And right, sometimes people don't want to call themselves creative or artists because they don't spend enough time with the faucet on. But even doesn't just be even if I create once in a while in my life, I'm making choices and creating in my life with the things that I have under my control, right? Based on my memory, my lived experiences, my memory, my education, right? I'm making choices about my life and about the life of my loved ones and how I interact with them, right? Why can't my life be art? Why can't my life, right, be creative, even if it's pragmatic, even if it's logical, right? Like because do I have to? I don't have to feel joy to be an artist, right? But I do have to feel at least, or at least even if I don't have all the language on what I'm feeling, right? My life, my art, right, can help me when I don't have the words, right? I think how I live sometimes does a better job of explaining my art than what I say. And as someone who uses language a lot to express myself and create, I think the choices and how I treat people can say a lot too about what my art is. So yeah, I think you're right, man. It's like folks gotta take that time to be introspective and then right talk to a young person and give them the memories, give them the game, pass on the will of fire.
No, it's real. Leveraging experience to create like restorative and repairing harm, right? Like utilize my experiences, whether I failed, whether I succeeded, whatever it's worth, find what's applicable, find what's useful, and do something with it, right? Like I consider myself to, somebody's like, oh, you should be a motivational speaker. I was like, I don't want to motivate you. I don't. I want to equip you with discipline and let you use that to get you through everything. Because when you don't feel like it, the discipline will carry you through. When you stay true to the practice, you refine it, then yes, it will get you through, right? So I was like, I'm a pragmatic disciplinarian, right? I'm not sitting here telling you, oh yeah, I want to provoke you with emotions and feelings. Now that may come, that may hit you because I said I was talking to them and I was saying, you know, they were talking about going into the military, and I like looking at the conflict of the world right now. I can't make a judgment on that. I can't pass judgment on you for wanting to do that. I can say there are opportunities that will be afforded to you when you go, but you have to be mindful of what it may do to you because you're entering into a complex, an industrial complex, right? And you can determine what's the outcome. Are you going to be there for 4 to 6 years? Are you going to be there for the long term and make this a career? What is your focus, right? Are you trying to serve others? Is there a specific trade or trait that you feel like you can explore within the confines of this, right? You talking about being a cook. Okay. What does that mean for you overall? Because as I'm talking to them, I'm also identifying who they are in the context of what they're pursuing. I'm like, you're a very headstrong, philosophical person and that you have a lot of standards and ethics. And it's not a knock to say you will be forced to challenge your ethics, your standards, your moral compass, because in military, right, there is an expectation that if we are going to go to war, then you have to be able to show up in some capacity that is dangerous, is detrimental to your health, that it could be even more harmful, right? And I'm like, you have to look at how many veterans come back and their services that they receive or the lack of services they receive impacts them far more once they've left, once they have done their time and have done their service. So I'm like, I'm telling them, laying it out, right? And I'm saying, what are the things you're going to do to take care of yourself? What are the things you're going to do that's going to help you stay focused on your personal goal? And if your goal changes, that's okay. But what are the things you're going to do? What do you have control over? Right? What do you value? Because it's not, I didn't go to the military. I know others that did. I have family that did. They benefited in a lot of ways. Some they didn't benefit as much as they thought they did. They walked away with some level of harm, damage that wasn't repaired or restored. Because in my ignorant perspective, I don't know if restoration of the human being is a part of the military's philosophical approach to developing people that want to be in the military, right? I don't know if being reparative to harm is a practice that they hold to increase the overall well-being and health and vitality of members of the military. There's some who will greatly benefit, and I can say that there's probably a vast majority who will benefit, and there's some who will be impacted, right? It's very different being a park ranger than it is saying, okay, I'm going to get involved in the military. It's very different saying, I'm going to be, a botanist, right? I'm going to be a gardener, right? I'm going to be a farmer. There's these skills you'll gain, they're transferable, you can take them elsewhere, but there's experience that you will have that'll either reinforce certain aspects or be destructive in certain aspects, right? It'll help build or it'll help take away. And I'm trying to just let this young person be aware, like, yeah, you know, you know who you are, and based off of what you shared to me, this is what I see for you. But it's up to you to decide what you want to do, right? And that's the thing is like taking the opportunity to really listen and hear what a person is saying and who they are and how they show up, and then reflecting that back to them when they do find themselves questioning, well, what do I do? How do I do it? Where should I go? Because yeah, it is a
Right.
people make decisions. I've had friends go into the military and it was a really good decision. And I've seen friends go and as good as it was, they were never the same. Right? There was a level of jadedness or some form of taintedness where it was like whatever whimsical belief they had was taken away from them. Right? Where there's this sense of rigidity that, it's like, wait, what happened? Right? It's like, oh, I'm just trying to make this happen. I'm just trying to get this. I'm just trying to do this thing. But where's your joy? And that's a tough thing for some people to have to even have a conversation about. And it's again leveraging the experience, leveraging the memories because it's educational. And the value in that knowledge is determined per person. But I do, yeah, the like ping pong off of it. How do we increase that value? How do we determine what is the exchange rate or what is the trade or is there even a trade that's necessary beyond I went through it and now you going through it and I want to see what happens when you get to your future, where your future is going to look like, right? If I can provide you with the disciplinary skills to help you get through, help you build, help you work on what you need to work on, right? Setting those boundaries and staying true to the practice. I have this belief, the refinement and the opportunity, if you were to go after it, it'll be bountiful. It'll be boundless. I think it's so important for people to really, yeah, talk to yourself, have that conversation with yourself, and then make sure that your communication style with yourself is one of love. Like it's easy to be self deprecating or insecure or beat yourself up and look at others and play the comparison game. It's another thing when you say, you know what, I love me, I'm enough, and I'm going to go for more. Versus, oh man, I see what they got. I kind of want that too. How did they get it? I'll never get it. I don't think I'll ever be able to get it. You can. What are you going to do? Your story, your journey. Are you going to leverage others and be able to like gain insight and perspective to refine how to get to it? Or do you just say, I'm going to do it on my own? Right? Ain't nothing wrong with picking or choosing either one. But as I know we are all social creatures, it may be valuable to check in with somebody to make that time to see what's up because I think you may gain something, right? And I think that's the thing is like, you know, Every opportunity of communication is an opportunity for education. It's an opportunity to discover something. If you're going through crisis, are we going to take the preparation and the time to plan before? So when the crisis comes, we know what to do and how to respond. It's so real. Remove yourself from an equation and see how things change. Then you'll understand what your real value is. Or you'll see how much people valued you, value themselves, right? There's so many things that'll be communicated. But again, that education, that experience, I leverage that and I give it to others to see them grow, to see them go, to see them do more. And so, yeah, it's just, yeah, thinking about something as simple as like Bitcoin and NFTs and like the blockchain and what that means and how we're tracing things that have value to us, right? We're a group of people that say this digital realm has value and we're electric, right? There is constant electrical synapses firing off in my brain right now as I talk and I think and I process. It makes too much sense. We going into the future. Elon trying to get us with a chip in the brain, right? We we already have our phones as our digital representation of ourselves. Everybody's phone is the symbiotic component to their life. Yes, you have a clock, but you
Well,
also
if they
have
got a if they got
okay.
a if they got a smartphone,
You're right. If they got a smartphone, right? If they was, still rocking the flip phone, hey, more power to you. That's dope. I wish I like sometimes I look and I'll be
some people just got house phones.
like, okay, this is a whirlwind of things. But the middle of the train of Bart, if your right arm can rest against the wall and you look in the middle of the train, right? It's when the seat facing forward and the seat facing back meet in the middle, right? Your right arm has to be touching the train, right? So that means you could be sitting in either direction, but it's that middle seat. You look underneath your seat, you find an outlet. You charge your phone. I remember for the years of living on BART when I had my Metro, right? Metro being for those that are unaware of what Metro PCS is, a cell phone provider, right? They provide a service, but it's also very affordable, right? It was like starting off as like $35 a month. And then it went up to like 45 or whatever. But it was manageable for people to have unlimited access to phone calls and text messages for a cheap price. And so living on BART as I did, right, without a smartphone, just a standard cell phone, I was plugged in on BART, charging my phone. The ability to connect and have that connection was so meaningful and so important. And I remember I came across the outlet on BART on like just happenstance. It was by chance. I was like, somebody had dropped something and it was rolling, and I look underneath the seat and I catch a glance. It's awkward. I'm like, what is that? I'm like, oh, they got outlets on the train. Well, I'm a commuter kid, so I need this. I gotta have it. Middle seat of the train. I'm gonna get it. People weren't aware. It became a thing. People started learning because I was sharing the information. I was sharing the experience. Hey, your phone dying? Or your phone dead? Hey, just plug it in right here. What?
Yep.
Let's share. Let's inform, right? Because now you have the ability to contact who you need to contact. You have the ability to stay connected. So that leveraging of my experience, I'm all for it. As I say in the song, had to learn to get the bag so I could share the science, right? Like that's what it is, right? I'm not sitting here trying to maintain and hold it to myself. I think there's something special about sharing. People be like, "Oh, how?" Like, when it comes to physical attributes, right, or physical displays of athleticism. I remember people like, "How'd you do that? How'd you discipline?" I was doing it when I didn't feel like it. I was doing it when I was in my head thinking about not doing it. I went and did it anyway. to the point that now someone's gonna ask me how did I do it. Which then, right? How'd you get in that position? How did you? I refine my discipline, right? When I take into account social emotional learning and universal design and restorative practices, and I think of all these different components that exist in the world of serving others that make me a better server, right? To serve others more efficiently. The discipline is how I refine the practice to sharpen or to more acutely deliver what a person needs, whether it's broad strokes or getting into the fine details of things. But leveraging that experience and giving others access is so vital, it's so important. And I don't think people do enough to communicate like this is what I need. This is what I need as a communication. This is what I need as a practice. This is what I need as a relationship, a friendship, whatever ship we on. But I do think it's so important to have that exchange, to build, to leverage, and to like, yeah, time, space. And then, whatever else we saying we value, let's value it. Let's say what we value, right? What do we hold on to? Whether it's your family, your friends, whatever the case may be, your favorite cup, your favorite sweater, your favorite hoodie, you know, something worth thinking about and exploring and communicating and letting people know.
Yeah, it's important when people set goals that that they ref, that the goals reflect, their value system. Um, when the goals don't reflect their value system, right, you end up somewhere you didn't intend to or don't want to be. And a lot of times people will set goals, based on someone else's value system or what someone has told them is important, and they pursue those goals and find themselves in a space where this environment doesn't suit me, and it becomes a problem when folks can't identify an internal crisis, when they can't see their own imbalances. And sometimes that act of or practice of repetition can reiterate, reinforce an imbalance, and folks don't know how to say, oh, something is off with the way I'm moving. And it it's like over 250 words, right, that describe feelings, right? Whether it's the feeling of being calm, feeling of accepting, of joy and aliveness, or sadness, or fear, or shameful. Like there's so many words to describe so many different aspects of our experience. And when we can give light to those feelings, positive or negative, right? When we give acknowledgement to those feelings, we can then address whether there's things that need to be reinforced, right, or things that need to be released. And being able to acknowledge them gives you the opportunity to name them, process and them, experience them, then release them. But releasing is often done premature, and it's done as compartmentalization, to where folks don't look at the root cause of those feelings, and they don't really get to know themselves. And then when you don't know yourself, you can't tell when you're balanced or not. Then you need people around you to say, you've been walking like this all day. Nah, man, I'm walking straight up. What you talking about? I don't look like that. Right? Can't see it in the mirror. can't see it in their reflection, can't see it in a window, can't see it in the buildings they walk by, right? Everyone is where we will always see ourselves differently than how people see us. And so when it comes to like identifying the internal crisis, right? That practice of saying, "Oh, I'm out of balance. These are the things that I'm feeling. This is why I'm feeling them, and I'm going to address these challenges or obstacles that are influencing me in the way that I interact with people, the way that I interact with myself, and the way that I approach my goals, so that they reflect what matters most to me. Because then I can maintain my discipline, right? Then I can stay. I can keep grinding, or I can keep up my practice, and I can pursue and achieve what's important to me, because the goals that I set reflect the things that are important to me, the values that are important to me. But a lot of times people will be like, "Oh, well, so and so said this is what's important in life." The co-host on Lyrical One said, these things are important. So I set up all my goals around what they said was important. Or Tony Robbins said that this was important. So I'm gonna set up all my goals around what Tony Robbins says is important. And got these external parameters for internal pursuit that basically leaves a disconnect in where anyone is supposed to be, or at least not where they're supposed to be, but at least where where they where they should be headed, based on right what's their values, right? And so we get off track. But when we're off track, doesn't mean we're not where we're supposed to be. It means we got lessons to learn on the side of the tracks. And if we have to make detours, they are not in the wrong direction. They are in the direction that moves us forward. They're in a direction that gives us the opportunity to move forward, gives us the opportunity to learn more about self. And hopefully, right, someone says, I need to spend more time with me to know what is causing me to feel this way or that way, and why I'm resistant to basically pursuing my fullest potential, my fullest, truest, most radiant self, right? The closest that anyone will get to God inside of me is me pursuing what's important to me, and me doing, like you said, right? Passing it on. So when I engage with others, right, they are then the closest that I will get to God in their divinity, as I interact with them, right, in a in an honest and transparent, right, respectful way. I get to experience their compassion for me, my compassion for them. Right? And we see the creator in that space, where we can then create in that space.
No, it's yeah, sharing I think is a key component of it all. I think that's so important to do. Um, because yeah, it's easy to. We're social creatures. We are social creatures. Companionship, relationships, friendships, parents, siblings, children, right? Like offspring, whatever you want to call it. There's so much to be revealed about our relationship to the world and to each other. And it's what you make it. It is what you make it. It's how you at all times. I remind myself every day that yeah, it's my choice on how I take things. Sometimes yeah, it can be hard or bitter. It's like you see something that makes you feel disrespected, and as I've often said on the podcast, I don't like to give the benefit of the doubt. Healthcare is a good benefit, and if I can give it, I would give it. But doubt is not a benefit. What I like to do is I like to give people the space where I can explore and discover, right? Let me see through you and explore your process and discover what your process is. I don't have to give you doubt, but I can discover, I can find, I can explore, I can be, you know, engaged, and then you can expose me to what it is that you are, who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you who you are, what gives you these habits or these practices or these actions that you commit yourself to. Doubt is not a benefit. Healthcare is. And that ain't even always readily available as a benefit. Right? Like payment is compensation, and then the benefit is extra. But you need to have your heart beating to get compensation. Benefit is not a doubt, like benefit of the doubt. No, 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 no. What I'll do is I'll like explore and discover. I'll maintain space for discovery. I'll maintain restraint and patience for discovery. Don't mean I gotta wait, but I can have restraint. And if I don't find out, I gotta be comfortable with letting go. Now that's not for everybody. Some people hold on, they hold on strong. They just keep running themselves into a wall. And some people it works out for them. It's not to say that it doesn't work out. Like some people, they learn to navigate when someone acts in harm. Some people are not really ready to admit, right? They'll put it on a scale. Oh, it's not as bad as what I went through here. So I'll endure this and it grants me a certain level of comfort. If that's what makes people cool, don't work for me. Because again, right? I have boundaries, I have discipline, I have certain things, right? Like I am my own person and I choose to be around people. I choose to have certain people in my life and I value them and I appreciate them and I try to reciprocate what is they bring or put or place in my life. But I don't necessarily put myself in a position where I lose sight of myself because of there's a varying degree of making sure you have a certain level of needs met versus getting lost on the sauce of what you want. I think it's so important to have a sense of grounding, a sense of centering yourself because yeah, when you share, you got to know what place you're in with yourself before you continually share and then you start to resent the process or the practice, right? It is a thing about self-care, right, where we always don't, like, I don't remember any school talking about, oh, let's navigate how to care for people, right? It's like, oh, we're going to talk about historical events and issues, and guess what? You figured out what it means to care for yourself and what does it mean to love and what does it mean to communicate effectively, right? All I remember was, oh, there's a test I need to take. Like I was a kid that was like, all right, I'm not really gonna do the work, but I'll do the final because I know it makes up 50% of my grade. So it's like, hey, if I do 20% of the work, and then I do the test really great, I'm getting a C. I'm out this thing. It's math. You told me. You said this is what comprises most of my grade, right? So then the value system for me is my time. The information is cool, but how much of this information is being utilized? Because I remember being in classrooms. I don't remember what we was talking about, right? I know that I cared about people the whole time, but I don't ever remember someone intervening with education around how to care. Hmm.
I think it was not as intentional as it could have been, or at least not as explicit. But when folks tried to, there was a time where elementary schools and the middle schools tried to create certain social norms, and they really became like suggestions or practices in the school culture, from managing conflicts or the right to pass, or no put downs. And so, like, the right to pass, is something that people should still be practicing, through middle school, high school, right, and college, and in the workplace, right, and coupling it with, right, the ability to communicate, right, your limit, or, right, what you're missing or what you need. But a lot of the language and messaging that's given to people is about desire and want, um, and not chasing, not pursuing needs, right? Say what you want, you know, buy what you want, work for what you want, and when you get to your needs, you get to them, right? And so there are health issues that arise or occur that are prevalent in society simply because people are not checking in about what they need. There are cultural practices and increased rates of violence or harassment based on people communicating what they want, not understanding how to communicate their need for connection, or their need for accountability, their need for grace or a sense of belonging, or like the need to be accepted while having a low self-esteem, right? It's like, I don't actually need to perform. I do have the right to pass. I don't have to perform to be valued. I don't have to achieve or unlock a trophy to be valued. I don't have to score a touchdown, right, or perform in some type of way to be valued. I don't have to, right, do anything to be worthy of being cared for. And I think they were rooted, some of those, those norms were rooted in that. At the same time, there was a language of what not to do versus what to do. There was a language of, if then, if this happens, respond this way. Um, Not from a preventative standpoint or preventative language, that encouraged folks to lift one another up, right? It's like, well, instead of no put downs, or to go along with no put downs, how about we also, right, ask what is, what is something that you like about yourself, or what is something that your classmate likes about themselves, right? How do you compliment someone without belittling them or objectifying them. How do you encourage them and who and how they see themselves? And right to your point of like where the improved teaching on how to care for someone can be made, right? It can be made in the language. I think, you know, a lot of religious communities have that issue still to this day, where teaching encouragement is is not something that's practiced or practiced enough. And what is what is prevalent or what is practiced is pointing out when someone has done wrong or warning them of their potential to do wrong as a tactic to motivate them into showing up a certain way or right being around a certain people or interacting with people a certain way within the community that they will be valued for the way they interact versus people interacting with them because they are valued.
Yeah. Speaking of feeling valued, right? As we get closer to what would be the conclusion of episode 90, I just want to say this. It's important. Professional courtesy, professional etiquette, knowing your moral compass, knowing your capacities. It is important to acknowledge people. Um, I've recently learned how important it is to be acknowledged myself, right? I'm not always looking for change. I'm just looking for someone to just say they heard what I had to say, that they can see from my perspective what I'm communicating. Not that I have an expectation that they're going to do something about it, but that they're willing to at least hear me, right? It's important because oftentimes we may find ourselves in situations or scenarios where, hey, I'm telling somebody, nobody's doing anything about it. But then you witness and you see that those concerns, when voiced by another, concessions are made. It's beyond acknowledgement. And for me, it's resulted in a punctuation mark of a long series of I guess you could say exposés, right? Of experiences that I now have concluded as a chapter or a book, if you will, of things that now I'm willing to put behind. And it's important to know and keep in mind, right? What is the professional courtesy and etiquette, and what is a framework that you know you need or you're learning and developing and communicating that to others, right? So acknowledge people, acknowledge others, identify with them, see them, really take the time to actively hone in on who they are. Whether it's all or some, it's better than not doing it. Um, Alfluent, any final thoughts or words for people on episode 90 of the Lyrical Ones podcast?
I didn't even know I had this band with me. If y'all watching, I got this resistance band, this little hip circle here, and I was like, "Oh, this is great for sitting at a desk for a long time, and you need to get some postural work in, some posterior chain work in. I'm gonna keep this close to my station from now on." One, I didn't know I had it on me, so I'm glad, and I'm glad about that. And if you're now watching, if you just listen, if you're catching the audio only, it's a red resistance band, and I didn't know I had it. But what I did know about myself is that I do usually have it on me. Not that one, but I got it on me all the time. Some band from somewhere will show is on my person all the time. What I appreciate is that I always empty my pockets before laundry, so I never find one when I'm washing clothes. But I will say this: if there are things that are important to you, try to immerse yourself in those things and the tools you need, and then it will be reflected in a similar fashion that you got it on you, right? Your tools for success, right? You'll have them on you.
Let me tell you,
And I think,
doing a show,
that's important.
doing a doing a show. The DJ, who was an incredible DJ, but technology decided to do other things in the middle of my set, right? We sitting there, I'm rocking, getting to the last song. All of a sudden, he's like, the computer pros, ain't nothing I could do. But I was ready because why? I had my iPod with me. I had my iPod there. And what's my iPod have? It has my set list. Plug me into the auxiliary. Then knock this out without missing a step and missing a beat. Delivered on doing everything in my power to entertain those that were in front of me, that were in the audience. And it's important to keep your tools with you, to keep your tools on you, right? If you know you're going to find yourself in a situation, gain the tools you need to make sure that you don't have to worry because things can go wrong. And for me, when they do, I am ready. I am ready for it. Keep your tools with you. So, yeah, Alpha, you right. Keep your tools.
Speaking of which, if you look on eBay, you might be finding listings of artillery and tanks on there right about now. Um, speaking of things going things going south and having your tools ready. Um, yeah, be careful out there, folks. Y'all stay safe. Much love to the folks in Ukraine and Russia. Um, you know, like you got folks who are half Ukrainian, half Russian, and vice versa. You got folks from Ukraine working in Russia, folks from Russia working in Ukraine, and then you got black folks, Africans, whose nationality, some of them, is Ukrainian. And, you know, they are being, denied the opportunity to flee to safety. And our hearts are with everybody who's affected by this, but we really, want to always bring attention to how people of color um, are, looked over and left out. And, we really can always do better as a community, as a society, and protecting those that need protection. Um, our hearts are with the world right now as we see the tension amongst alliances and the tension amongst um, agreements get stretched thin, and we see threats and things happen around the world. Yeah, I just want to just my final thoughts for episode 90 are that we continue to look for nonviolent ways to solve problems and resolve things.
I agree. And if y'all want to get violent, y'all keep that with yourselves. Don't be getting everybody else involved in y'all shenanigans. Um, with that, as we do at this time.
Lyrical.
One, 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 one.